Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of The County Seat. I'm your host, Chad Booth. We are bringing you this special program from the historic Utah County Courthouse. Our story today is about a group of veterans who lost their meeting place and how a community has come together to help them. We will be covering that today. We are also going to take this time to pause and ponder of the great sacrifice that veterans have made on our behalf to maintain our liberties here in this country.
The American flag has been a symbol of the strength and unity of our nation for more than 200 years. But for people who have gone to war in its defense, the American flag means even more. These brave men and women have risked everything for their country, protecting liberty and freedom.
We did our job, kept our head down, kept our shoulder to the wheel, and just kept on plodding. We don't ask for accolades. We don't want self-edification. What we're after is for love of country. Freedom is not free, and we have paid many prices.
We don't often think about the price that's been paid by veterans of war and what happens to them when they get home. Luckily, there are a number of service organizations who do. The American Legion, Disabled American Veterans, and Veterans of Foreign Wars. They're just a few who volunteer their services for our veterans, and they also provide support for the families of deployed soldiers.
I honestly do not know what we would do without all of these volunteers that have been so kind to help us.
Many of these service institutions met in the same community space for decades, providing programs and support for retired soldiers. But last fall, the veterans organizations in Utah County were given a sunset notice, which abruptly ended their use of meeting space. It left these congressionally chartered organizations without a home.
We thought we had a home forever. Well, when the Eldridge Center was torn down for the new Provo facility, we were told that our contracts were linked to the Eldridge Center and not to the city. And therefore, they didn't have to feel like they had to honor that contract, that we were just like every other organization. And the fact of the matter is that the city, the mayor really reached out. They really did try to help us to find a place. But the facilities that they wanted to give to us didn't provide for the means of what we needed. Our veterans can't be hauling stuff up, setting it up, tearing it down, bringing it back home, putting it in their trunks, and then the rest of the organization losing those historical documents, traditions.
Randy Edwards is the post commander of the Dean Mendenhall Provo Post 13 of the American Legion. He began looking for a new meeting place for the vets, a journey that started at the local Freedom Festival and ended at the Utah County Commission.
Randy said, you don't realize how many veterans come so they can sit down in a chair across the table and talk about what's going on in their head. And he says, there's no place to heal anymore. There's no place to meet. There's nothing for us to do. And I says, Randy, let's rectify that.
Between the two conference rooms that was offered to us and the ballroom, it really met the needs of the veterans, and it gave them this respect and dignity that our veterans needed in this community. And I really appreciate the opportunity that they didn't only say, here it is, but it's like, what else can we do? We want to help you.
Our conversation went on and we said, well, let's involve the VFW, let's involve the DAV, the Disabled American Veterans, as well as the American Legion. He says, can we do that?
Today, members of a number of veteran service organizations have come together for the grand opening of a permanent meeting facility. It's a place for veterans to meet, heal, and share their history with the community.
When you look at Utah County Veterans Organization, first time, this is new, this is important.
This will be a one-stop shop for veterans now. They can access all of the services from this area. So it will be wonderful. Not only that, it will be a place that once people get used to it, they'll know there's a place to go.
So what one organization can't provide, the other can. And that's the support of the three veterans organizations. We all have our own purpose, but we're all here for the community. We're here to support our youth. We're here to handle scholarships and school awards, and to build Americanism and flag etiquette.
Now, it may seem like a simple act to provide space for our American veterans, but that simple act by this community has provided so much more.
Just having office space here means a lot to veterans because it means, first of all, that we have honor in the city, that they honor our service and they honor the quality of our service and the freedom that's brought not just to America but to the world.
History. Yes, the stuff that they hang on the walls, the pictures, the certificate, the original charter, which is very important, quite old. And this is part of history of Utah County.
I think we, as a general public, don't always remember that we've got people who are out there every day helping to protect those freedoms. And we owe a debt of gratitude to each and every one of them. And this is a small way that we and the citizens of Utah County can show that support to them, and we are very pleased to be able to do that.
These men and women, willing to risk everything to protect freedom and liberty, historically have asked for very little in return. But sometimes it is those little things we do as a community to say thank you that have had the biggest impact. For the county seat, this is Terry Wood.
Thank you, Terry. We now understand what has happened with the three groups coming together in one location in Utah County. We are going to take a commercial break. When we come back, we will meet representatives of the three groups, find out what kind of services they provide to the community and what their organizations mean to veterans coming back for more. Stay with us. We'll be right back with the county seat.
If you haven't been to Starvation in a while, you're in for a great surprise. New campsites, new cabins, and beach improvements await your next visit. Just 3 hours away, but a world away from the Wasatch Front in Duchesne County. Starvation State Park is located 4 miles northwest of Duchesne, just off US Highway 40. Duchesne County. Close enough for business, far enough to get away.
Let's be honest, you don't know much about Beaver County. Well, let me tell you about it. It's the birthplace of outlaw Butch Cassidy and inventor Philo T. Farnsworth. Some of the best skiing in Utah is at Eagle Point. You've got camping, Canyon Breeze Golf Course, Crusher and the Tushers, Beaver Territorial Courthouse, snowmobiling, renewable energy, Pioneer Car Show, Squeaky Cheese, Ghost Towns to explore, best water in the country, Paiute ATV trails, Old Frisco kilns, horse racing, hunting, fishing, and it's a good place to live. Beaver County, mountains of fun. I could tell you more, but why don't you come and see it for yourself?
Believe it or not, summer isn't far away, and neither is Juab County. There's no need to travel far to find the perfect family adventure. Boating Yuba Reservoir, exploring Mount Nebo, riding Little Sahara. Save your gas this summer and stay in your own backyard. Juab County. It'll change your family forever.
The State of Utah School and Institutional Trust Lands Administration, SITLA, manages 3.5 million acres of Utah lands with the express purpose of providing financial support to further the education of Utah's students, while promoting local industry, oil and gas, even residential development, all at the same time. Through the careful use of trust lands, the School Land Trust Program will distribute nearly $37 million to Utah schools this year. The State of Utah School and Institutional Trust Lands Administration, building the state's permanent school fund.
Welcome back to the county seat. We are at the historic Utah County Courthouse today, grand opening of the new combined office for all three organizations. I'd like to introduce our panel today. Craig Thorne, Senior Vice Chairman of the Veterans of Foreign War. We have Glenn Bradford, who's the commander of American Legion Post 68 from Spanish Fork, and Tim Matthews, who is the commander of Chapter 1 of the Disabled American Veterans. Thank you all for your service, and thank you all for taking the time to join us today. So we'll start left to right. We'll start with you, Craig. Would you explain very briefly to the viewers at home what the Veterans of Foreign War is and who they serve?
Okay, the Veterans of Foreign Wars is all the people who fought in a foreign war or in a combat zone during the time of war. Like I was on the demilitarized zone in Korea, and that's how I'm eligible to be in the Veterans of Foreign War. And so anyone who qualifies can join that. The American Legion is pretty much the same, except you do not have to be deployed overseas, right? You just have to be serving during a time of war.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay. What other things distinguish the American Legion?
American Legion was chartered and incorporated by Congress in 1919. It is the largest veterans organization in the country. Current membership's 2.5 million people. After World War II, there were over 4 million members. The goals of the American Legion are similar in nature to all three major organizations' goals. The 4 pillars of the American Legion are Americanism, children and youth, national security and foreign affairs, and veterans affairs and rehabilitation. And within those 4 pillars is where we focus our attention, especially veterans affairs and rehabilitation. The American Legion wrote the first GI Bill. They've been very proactive with Congress. We are one of the largest, I don't like to use the term lobbyist, but we're one of the largest lobbyist organizations in the country.
The Disabled American Veterans, Tim, is a different organization with a more defined purpose. What do you do, and who do you serve?
We are quite a bit smaller than the other organizations. There are only about 1.25 million of us. But our members are service people who were injured or became ill or have somehow become disabled as a result of their military service. We provide help to people that want to apply for benefits, whoever want to change their benefits, and we also provide information and contact for anybody with any sort of question. We accommodate all veterans that walk through the door. We can try to give them whatever kind of help we can. The disability side of it, that's required for our membership, but you don't have to be a member to get our assistance. So we purchase vans with our donations and dues. We donate the vans to the VA hospital, and we donate volunteer drivers who go out into the community, pick up veterans that can't drive or unable to drive, and bring them to their appointments in Salt Lake.
So that shows the face of the community as the Disabled American Veterans go to work. With the American Legion, how does the community recognize you other than the American Legion post?
American Legion sponsors American Legion baseball, and 60% of the pro players in this country started out playing American Legion baseball. Boys State and Boys Nation is one of our flagship programs, as is a girls' state for the American Legion Auxiliary. We focus largely on children and youth, and that's why these programs that I just defined are so important to us.
Okay, and for the VFW?
We have a teacher award program where we honor outstanding teachers in our community. And also we have a Voice of Democracy and the Patriots Pen, which are essay contests, and where we give out prizes to the winners. But another thing that we all do is the military rites at funerals. And we're the ones who do the 21-gun salute.
And that's all very good.
Yes.
And I think it's very inspiring when people see that. We're going to take a break right now. We've found out a little bit about the organizations. We're going to have Commissioner Doug Whitney join us from Utah County when we come back and find out a little bit about what other communities might be doing similar to Utah County, bringing these fine organizations and putting them side by side, working on behalf of veterans. We'll be back with the county seat in just a minute.
You go through the day-to-day repeating what you did yesterday. Don't you wish you could access that piece of your life that's missing? Find the beauty, serenity, family fun, or anything else that's missing from your life in the Cedar City, Bryan Head area. Gain access to your adventure, whether it's camping, hiking, the arts, festivals, or just a getaway. Visit ScenicSouthernUtah.com for details on all the adventures that you can access in scenic Southern Utah.
Kanab, base camp for your Southern Utah adventures. You belong in Kanab.
Welcome back to the county seat. We've been talking about veterans and their interface with the communities as they return from service in the war. And by this time, you've heard the story of what's happened in Utah County. We want to pick up with that dialogue and go a little bit further into this. Reintroducing our panel, we have Craig Thorne, who is the Senior Vice Chairman of the Veterans of Foreign Wars. And we have Glenn Bradford, who is Commander of the American Legion Post number 68 from Spanish Fork, and Commissioner Doug Whitney, Utah County Commission. So let me start by asking Doug in a kind of a recap. The county responded to the request by the veterans group as far as finding a place to go. How hard of a decision was that for the county to get into?
It was a nice fit from day one. In other words, when we were approached by the American Legion, we were told that they had been bumped out of a building that had been torn down in one of the cities, and they said, we have nowhere to go. And they said, would you be able to help us? And I thought, of course we can help you. And we talked a little bit. We kind of wanted to get to know what their ideas were, what kind of room you needed. Did you need conference room? Did you need ballrooms? And after our conversation, I went ahead and contacted the other commissioners as well as the buildings individuals, and we selected a room that we thought was very appropriate. We're in the historic courthouse. We also are in a building that is kind of the icon for Utah County. And on the same floor as some of our senators and representatives from Utah. They have offices here. And we thought this was an appropriate place.
Let me ask this though, is there, you know, quite often you'll go into a town and the VFW will have one place and the American Legion and the DAV, and you're all together at this point. Is there some kind of synergism? Does this help to have the different organizations side by side?
Oh, definitely. It's basically a way for it's mainly for the service officers of the different American Legion, Veterans of Foreign War, the DAV, and we just share one room. And so if a veteran is in need, or if a deployed wife needs some help, she can just go to one place here in Provo, and she can get help from 3 different organizations.
Do you ever find somebody that comes in and they've got business with multiple organizations, and they might come to you and then they just move over to the next desk and then talk to you?
Not often, especially not with the service organizations. Right now, American Legion has 2 full-time service officers in the state of Utah. They also have, I think, 3 outreach individuals who travel the smaller communities. The DAV also has service officer, and all of the 3 major organizations which Craig defined all pretty well have the same goals. The way we approach them is a little bit different, but we're in it together, and we should be working hand in hand. This facility will accommodate that for us very well, because it will force us to intermingle.
You know, Doug, the county has taken the first step here in Utah County, and there apparently is need in other communities across the state. Do you have advice for other county leaders on what to do and how to do this?
Well, you know, it was because I was a veteran that I even was very interested right off the bat. But when these guys explained what they needed, and particularly Randy Edwards explained what they needed, here we have We had a room that was vacant. It was in a perfect place for them. And to think that our veterans organizations do not have a place to meet, that is not right. These are the people who have gone out, given their lives, given parts of their bodies to saving this free land. And I've got to tell you, this was a no-brainer for all of us. In fact, all three commissioners didn't hesitate to say, we want these groups here. In fact, it was originally just one group, and then we said, look, you guys, let's bring a representative amount of people here. And we gave them a conference room at the end that they can reserve. We gave them the ballroom here where they can have get-togethers. And so it wasn't just a one-time short-term thing. It was, we are willing to give them, and if counties would look at that and say, look at the loss of money, if you want to look at it that way, there is none. There is, compared to what you're giving back to the community, what you're giving back to people who have fought for our freedom, this is a small price.
So are there other communities that are in the process of doing something similar to this within the state? Are you aware of anything?
I'm not aware of anything, but one thing I'd like to point out, there are three major veteran service organizations which we've defined. Many of the members belong to 2 and 3 of those organizations. A lot of people believe that we're in conflict with one another. That's simply not the case. I'd like that explained. There are 30,000 veterans in Utah County, and you do not have to be a veteran and a member of one of these organizations to get help through what we're doing here. These service offices are open to all veterans, so that's important.
You're all in one office. Is that going to make your duties easier?
Oh, definitely, because everyone has different resources. And by being able to pool our resources to help the individuals that come in and need help is a great benefit to not just our organizations, but the veterans that we serve.
Give an example of that.
Like let's say, well, once we had a lady come in. I'm a service officer for my VFW post, and her husband was deployed to Afghanistan, and their car broke down. They needed a transmission fixed, and we had a member who's a mechanic, and he got her a deal for about half what it would normally be. Now, if we didn't know that mechanic, then we would have had to pay twice as much. And like, let's say she would have gone to the American Legion, and they didn't have a mechanic, but they knew that we did. Then they could come to us and use the mechanic and get the good deal to help her out.
That makes sense. I mean, obviously, were you as a county thinking, if we put them all together, that they can kind of develop this camaraderie?
As a matter of fact, we actually talked about that, and we talked about the uniqueness of this situation. I have never heard of it before, personally, tell you the truth. I mean, Craig, I've been up to some of the VFW thing when they have the little bear for the Vietnam families, and a little bear giveaway. Oh my goodness, it was incredible. I have to tell you that this has come together so easily. It was meant to be. It was meant to be. It's good for Utah County. It's good for the state if other counties want to take that role and to step up to the plate. These guys deserve it.
And they can contact you if they need a guideline on how to do it?
Absolutely. I don't think they'll need a guideline, no.
All right, very good. Well, listen, we're going to take a commercial break. We've covered what has happened in Utah County, looked at some of the advantages of the 3 veterans groups working side by side, sharing some common space and some commonalities. When we come back, we will wrap up our conversation today and pay a little tribute to the veteran who has done so much to protect our freedom. Stay with us. We'll be back with the county seat in just a minute.
Who is it?
It's me, honey. Did you let me in?
Well, not unless you got your whooping cough booster shot to protect our baby.
I forgot.
Your dinner's on the porch.
Find out where you can get vaccinated at stopwhoopingcough.org.
Unlimited opportunity for adventure. It's all about knowing where to look. ATV adventures, rock crawling events, art festivals, and wildlife events. The opportunities are limitless. Pick your adventure in Millard County.
June 27th to the 29th, Morgan Valley Polaris presents the Widowmaker Hill Climb in Croydon, Utah. The world-renowned gravity-defying event is back, and this year it's bigger than ever. See our international racers pit themselves against the mountain, and for the first time ever, racers will drag race up the Widowmaker Hill to prove their superiority. The first 50 campers will receive family 4-packs to Rocky Mountain Raceway, provided by Young Ford and Morgan. For discount tickets and more info, check out www.widowmaker.info.
Welcome back to the county seat. We have been talking about veterans groups today in honor to the U.S. veterans. And we've been talking about organizations and a new concept with a combined office for the 3 major groups. Let's talk about some of the things that the veterans groups are looking forward to in the future now that you've got your housing taken care of, so to speak. Tell us what the future holds.
Okay, one of the things that our post has been doing for a while is Operation Teddy Bear. And what we do is we give comfort bears to the children of deployed soldiers. And these comfort bears help the children with separation anxiety. And so far we've given out several hundred, if not a few thousand, to the children of Utah deployed soldiers.
Some of the national issues that we're working on is something very similar to what Craig's organization is doing. It's a national organization called Operation Comfort Warriors. It's essentially the same thing. When the warriors get their camp blown apart or something like that, and they lose all of their personal possessions, we try to replace their personal possessions like laptops and cell phones and so on. That's one thing.
Doug, you are a veteran.
Yes.
What do these groups mean to you personally as a veteran?
You know, when I came home from the Vietnam War, it was not like the guys who come home now. I've been on airplanes where people will stand and clap as the soldiers come on. It wasn't the same way back then. And you know what? It was not right. And not that I'm complaining. Grateful to be home. But it's just a privilege to be with these guys. And some of them you're gonna realize they fought in the Korean War, they've fought in Vietnam, they've fought in Afghanistan, Iraq. These are Americans who have left their homeland and have gone to a foreign country, risking their lives for the freedom of somebody else. That is just that's just unheard of, except for America. America does it. It's a privilege for me to and the other commissioners to offer to these groups what we are offering them. It's a privilege.
Very good, and with that point, I want to thank you gentlemen for joining us today on the county seat. I would like to take just a moment to invite you at home to stop and really ponder how much of a sacrifice goes into serving your country. And many of us have not done it, some of us have. You really need to reflect on that, and we will see you next week on the county seat. Thanks for being with us today. Remember, local government is where your life takes place.